She was betrayed, abandoned, and left to struggle with nothing but her son in her arms. Years passed, and Mary's boy grew into a shining star, gifted beyond measure, full of dreams. But the day he discovered his father's company was falling apart, he made a choice that would change everything. Now, Mary must face the man who broke her and the child he never knew. As the years passed, Mary's little roadside business grew. She woke early each morning, strapping David to her back while she cooked. At night, she helped him with his homework by candlelight, though she herself could barely read. "You must learn, my son," she told him. "You will be the one to lift us out of this suffering." And David, bright, curious, and full of life, never disappointed her. His teachers spoke of his brilliance. Other parents shook their heads in amazement. And though Mary still struggled, she smiled through her pain. Her sacrifices were shaping a child who would one day change everything. 7 years passed like the blink of an eye. Mary was no longer the frightened, broken girl who had once wandered the streets with nothing but pain in her heart. Life had not become easy, but she had carved a place for herself and her son through sweat, tears, and endless sacrifice. Her little food stand had grown into a popular spot in the neighborhood. Customers often said her hands are blessed and came back daily just to taste her meals. Yet, the true blessing in her life was not her cooking, it was her son, David. From a very young age, David showed signs that he was no ordinary child. At 3, he was already solving puzzles that older children struggled with. At 5, he was asking questions that left even his teachers speechless. By 7, he could repair broken radios, draw complicated designs, and solve math problems far beyond his level. Mary often watched him in wonder, her heart swelling with pride. "You are truly special, my son," she whispered. "The world will know your name one day." David was not only intelligent, but also kind-hearted. Each day after school, he helped his mother at the food stand, serving customers with a polite smile. Neighbors admired him, saying, "That boy will grow into a great man." But Mary guarded her heart, praying every night that his greatness would not be destroyed by the same cruelty that once destroyed her own dream. She still carried the pain of her past, but she hid it well, choosing instead to live for her son's future. One evening, after closing the food stand, Mary and David sat in their small room eating dinner. The flickering light of their old television filled the room. Suddenly, the newsreader's voice caught David's attention. "Breaking news. The largest company in Nigeria, David Holdings, faces bankruptcy. Years of financial mismanagement have finally caught up, and the company is expected to be sold by the end of the month." The camera flashed images of the company's proud logo. Then, the billionaire himself, David's father. Mary froze. Her spoon dropped into her plate as she stared at the screen. The past she had buried deep inside her heart came rushing back. The mansion, the betrayal, the pain of being thrown out. It all returned in one sharp sting. She quickly turned her face away, But little David was staring intently at the screen, his young eyes burning with determination. Mama, he said firmly, I can save that company. Mary blinked, shocked. What are you saying, my son? David picked up his worn school notebook and flipped it open, showing her sketches, numbers, and designs he had been working on for weeks. I have been studying their mistakes. I know what they're doing wrong, and I know how to fix it. Mama, please, take me there. Let me help them. Mary's heart twisted in fear. She knew the truth, that the man on the screen was his father. She had sworn never to cross paths with him again. No, my son, she said softly, tears filling her eyes. That place is not for us. Forget about them. But David shook his head stubbornly. His small fists clenched. Mama, I was born for this. If they fail, many people will lose their jobs. I can help them. Please, Mama, believe in me. Mary looked at her son, her chest heavy with emotion. She saw the same fire in his eyes that once burned in the man who had broken her heart. But unlike his father, David's fire was pure, full of hope and compassion. She hugged him tightly, torn between fear and pride. In her heart, she knew destiny was knocking at their door. David's brilliance could not be hidden. In school, he was the star student every teacher talked about. During one mathematics competition, he solved problems in minutes that left even the judges speechless. This boy is gifted beyond measure, his teacher told Mary one afternoon. He doesn't just solve problems, he sees patterns the rest of us cannot. You must nurture him. Mary smiled humbly, but inside, her heart trembled. She knew her son was extraordinary, but she also feared the dangers that came with standing out. At home, David often spent hours sketching in his notebooks. His small hands would draw diagrams of machines he imagined. Water pumps for poor villages, faster cooking stoves for mothers like his, even ideas to improve factories he had never stepped foot in. Mary would watch him, sometimes with tears in her eyes. My child, she whispered once, how did God put so much wisdom in such a little boy? David only smiled and hugged her, saying, Mama, one day I will build something so big you will never have to walk again. The neighbors too began to notice. One evening, when a neighbor's generator broke down, little David offered to help. They laughed at first, but within minutes, he had opened the machine, tightened a few wires, and brought it back to life. The crowd cheered, lifting him onto their shoulders. This boy is a miracle, they shouted. Mary watched from a distance, pride glowing in her eyes, but also fear swelling in her chest. She knew greatness often attracted envy, and envy had nearly destroyed her once. So when David saw the news about the Billionaire's company and declared that he could save it, Mary's whole body stiffened. The very thought of walking back into the world she had escaped made her shiver. She remembered Helen's cruel laughter, the harsh words, the humiliation of being thrown out. She remembered standing in the cold, clutching her unborn baby, with nowhere to go. Her voice shook as she told her son, forget them, forget their company, forget everything about that world. But David would not forget. In the days that followed, he pressed her again and again, showing her his designs, his plans, his confidence. Mama, please, this is my chance to help. This is why I was born. His words cut through her like a knife. Each night, as she lay beside him, Mary prayed desperately for guidance. Should she protect him from the past or let destiny take its course? Little did she know that no matter her choice, fate was already weaving a path that would bring her face to face with the man who had once destroyed her life. The day came heavy with tension. The news spread everywhere. David Holdings, once the pride of the nation, was finally collapsing. Reporters gathered at the gates of the tall glass building, waiting to capture history. Inside the boardroom, the billionaire David sat with weary eyes. His face pale from sleepless nights. Papers were spread out before him, contracts ready to be signed. His empire, built with sweat and ambition, was about to be sold. The men in suits whispered among themselves, their voices thick with greed. At that very moment, Mary stood outside the same building, her heart pounding violently in her chest. She held her son's hand tightly, her steps unsteady. She had resisted for days, but David's persistence had broken through her fear. Now, here she was, back in the world she had run from. She pulled her wrapper closer and whispered, "My son, maybe this is a mistake. Let's go back." But the boy looked up at her, his small eyes blazing with courage. "Mama, please, just trust me." Inside, the billionaire picked up his pen. Just as he lowered it towards the paper, the boardroom doors burst open. Gasps filled the air as a little boy rushed in, his school bag slung across his back. "Stop!" the boy shouted, his voice echoing through the room. "Don't sign that paper. I can save your company." The room erupted into murmurs. "Who is this child?" "Security." The guards moved to grab him, but David's hand shot up. Something about the boy's eyes froze him. "Let the child speak," he commanded. The little boy dropped his bag on the table, pulled out crumpled notebooks filled with sketches, figures, and designs. He spread them out with trembling hands. "You are losing money because your machines waste too much energy. You are paying for what you don't use. But if you fix it this way," he pointed to his diagrams with confidence far beyond his years, "you can save millions. You don't have to sell." The billionaire leaned forward, shock on his face, as he studied the drawings. His board members crowded around, their mouths open in disbelief. This could work," one whispered. "But how did this boy see what we could not?" Another shook his head in shame. The billionaire's eyes lingered on the boy, his chest tightening with something he could not explain. "Who are you?" he asked softly. The boy hesitated, glancing at the doorway where his mother stood, trembling, tears in her eyes. Slowly, she stepped forward, her voice breaking as she whispered, "He is your son." The boardroom fell into stunned silence. The pen slipped from the billionaire's hand, his whole body trembling. His eyes darted from Mary's face, the face he once threw out into the cold, to the boy who carried his very blood. In that moment, the mighty billionaire felt his empire crumble, not because of money, but because of the truth. The silence in the boardroom was so heavy that even the ticking clock on the wall sounded like thunder. The billionaire's lips trembled as he stared at Mary. Memories he had buried came rushing back. The night he stumbled home drunk, the faint image of Mary's tearful eyes, the day he had ordered her thrown out. His chest tightened painfully. Could it be true? Could this boy really be his son? Mary stood at the door, clutching her wrapper with both hands. Her knees were weak, but her voice, though trembling, carried the weight of years of pain. Yes, David, he is your son, the child you never knew, the child you cast away when you cast me out. Gasps filled the room as board members exchanged shocked looks. All eyes turned to the billionaire, waiting for his response. The billionaire rose slowly from his seat, his powerful frame now bent under guilt. He walked towards the boy, each step heavy, his heart pounding like a drum. He knelt before the child and studied his face closely. The sharp jawline, the fiery eyes. It was like looking into a mirror of his younger self. His hands shook as he touched the boy's shoulder. My son, his voice broke. Forgive me. But before the moment could settle, the doors of the boardroom flew open again. Helen stormed in, her face pale with fury. What is going on here? She demanded. Her eyes fell on Mary, then on the boy, and instantly fear gripped her. She knew the truth had come knocking. David, don't listen to her lies, Helen cried, rushing forward. This woman is a thief, a liar. She stole from us and ran away. That boy cannot be yours. The billionaire turned sharply, his eyes dark. Enough, Helen, he thundered, his voice shaking the walls. The board members froze, watching the drama unfold. Mary's tears flowed freely as she spoke. I never stole. You know I never did. She framed me because she feared the truth. The room erupted with whispers, all eyes darting between Helen and the billionaire. Helen's face twisted in desperation. She's lying. She's trying to destroy us. But her words fell flat. The billionaire's gaze lingered on her, suspicion rising like a storm. For years, he had trusted her blindly. But now, the cracks in her perfect marks were beginning to show. And deep in his heart, he knew Mary's tears were far more powerful than Helen's screams. The boy, little David, stepped forward, his small voice cutting through the noise. Papa, he said softly, and the billionaire's heart shattered into pieces. There, in front of the entire board members, the mighty man, who once ruled with pride, felt tears sting his eyes. He reached out and pulled his son into his arms, holding him tightly, as if afraid to ever let go again. Helen's mouth fell open, her world crashing down before her very eyes. For the first time, she realized her carefully guarded secrets, that she had no womb, that her life in the mansion was built on lies, was standing at the edge of exposure. Helen's chest rose and fell as she tried to hold her ground. The room was spinning with whispers, and her voice cracked as she shouted, "You are all being fooled. That boy is not your son." She turned desperately to the board members. Can't you see? She's after his wealth. But her words only fueled the storm. The billionaire's eyes narrowed, rage and betrayal burning inside him. For years, he had trusted Helen, protected her, and believed every word she said. But now, Mary's pain stood before him like undeniable truth. Helen, he said coldly, his voice low but dangerous. Enough of your games. If that boy is not mine, then why does he carry my blood in his eyes? Why does he speak with my fire? Helen staggered back, her lips trembling. She searched for words, but none came. For the first time, her confidence cracked. One of the older board members, a man who had known the billionaire for years, leaned forward. Sir, perhaps a test will clear this matter. If the boy is yours, science will confirm it. The room murmured in agreement. Helen's face drained of color. She knew the truth. If a test was done, her web of lies would unravel. No, she shouted, her voice shrill with desperation. There will be no tests. This is all a trap. The billionaire's face hardened. Why, Helen? Why are you afraid of the truth? The weight of the moment pressed down on her. Her secret, the one she had hidden for years, the one that bound her to the mansion, was slipping out of her hands. Finally, her control snapped. Because I cannot give you children, she screamed, her voice echoing through the boardroom. Gasps erupted, filling the air like thunder. Helen's hands shook as tears streamed down her face. Yes, it's true. I have no womb. I could never give you a child. And if you find out Mary's son is yours, everything I have will be gone. The billionaire staggered back, as though struck by lightning. The truth he had never suspected now stood naked before him. His eyes burned with both sorrow and fury as he turned towards Helen. All these years, he said slowly, his voice breaking, you lived beside me with lies? You watched me cast out the innocent mother of my child and you said nothing? Helen fell to her knees, clutching his legs and weeping. Please, David, I did it because I loved you. I was afraid of losing you. But the billionaire pulled away, his eyes cold as stone. You never loved me. You only loved the mansion, the power, the name. You ruined my home and nearly destroyed my future. His voice thundered through the room, finer and sharp. You are no longer my wife. Get out. The board members watched in stunned silence as Helen collapsed to the floor. Her world shattered. In that moment, the empire she had guarded so fiercely slipped through her fingers like dust, and Mary, the woman she once mocked and destroyed, now stood tall, her son in her arms, her tears not of shame, but of justice long delayed. The boardroom was silent after Helen's exit. The weight of years of lies still hung in the air, but something greater now demanded attention. The boy. David the billionaire turned slowly, and his eyes locked on the child who had just saved his empire. For a long moment, words failed him. His heart, so hardened by wealth, power, and betrayal, now trembled at the sight of the son he never knew he had. Mary stood uncertain, clutching the boy's shoulders, as though shielding him from another storm. Tears rolled down her cheeks, not of weakness, but of fear. Fear that this moment, too, could end in rejection. But the boy, small and brave, looked straight at David. I told you I can help you, he whispered softly. Because you're my father. Those words broke David completely. He stepped forward, his strong hands trembling as they reached out. Slowly, he knelt in front of the boy, lowering himself in a way no one had ever seen before. His voice cracked as he spoke. Forgive me, son. Forgive me, Mary. I wronged you both in ways I can never undo. But if you will allow me, I will spend the rest of my life making it right. Mary's tears flowed harder. For years, she had carried shame, pain, and rejection. For years, she has struggled alone in the shadows, while Helen basked in riches that weren't hers. And now, standing in the same room where she had once been cast out, she was finally vindicated. Her voice shook as she replied, I don't need your riches, David. All I ever wanted was for you to know your son and for him to never feel unwanted. Later that night, Mary and her son walked back into the mansion, this time not as servants, not as outcasts, but as family. The gates that once closed against her now opened wide, and the staff bowed respectfully. Inside, the boy ran through the halls with laughter, his small feet echoing in the home that should have been his from birth. Mary stood by the doorway, her eyes misty. The mansion felt the same, but everything had changed. She no longer carried shame. She carried victory. David approached her, his hand gentle as he placed it on her shoulder. Mary, he said quietly, this house has been empty all along. Today, it finally becomes a home. And for the first time in years, Mary smiled. A smile that spoke of scars, survival, and hope. For though the journey had been cruel, destiny had finally turned in her favor. Thank you for watching this video. Life teaches us that no matter how long the truth is hidden, it will always rise and set people free. Never let lies or fear steal your destiny. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe so more people can be inspired. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and remember, destiny may delay, but it's never denied.